Thank you, Senator King, for being here today. We're here to talk about the Affordable Care Act and some of the glitches that have taken place with the website. I know you expressed some concerns in print stories to us about your concerns about how that launch has gone. I guess the question is what's the way forward?
Well, the way forward is to fix it. I mean, this is a mechanical, technological problem. It should have been fixed a long time ago. And I think using the word glitch is a compliment. It's way worse. I'd call it more like a disaster. And there's no excuse for it. I mean, this is a deadline people have known about for several years. It's a question of just getting the technology right. I mean, LL Bean does it, Amazon does it, Google does it. This can be done. And what's really a shame is that it's obscuring what should be a beneficial and positive development for people, the availability of affordable health care insurance. And I have very little sympathy. I mean, they say, well, there were a lot of people the first few days. Well, okay, but you anticipate that. I mean, that's what you should have. And frankly, I think the administration was given a gift by the shutdown obscuring the first 2 weeks of problems, and it ought to be fixed by now. And I spent about 3 hours on it the first night, quit in utter frustration because, these things ought to work.
You mentioned that fixing it is the way to fix the problem, obviously, but I guess how soon, the administration has said basically that they are deploying more resources, they're directing people to the 1-800 number. Is that sufficient, or is it a different solution in terms of what Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire is talking about, which is delaying the mandate?
Delay the execution. I don't know. I would just as soon not take the pressure off the administration. I'm more focused on getting it to work. And there are state exchanges. There are 14 state exchanges that are working pretty well. Several states, and Maine included, a bunch of states, Maine included, chose not to set up an exchange, and so everything went through the federal exchange, and that's where the problems are. So I'll look at what Senator Shaheen is talking about, but my inclination is to say let's not keep delaying things. Let's make it work, and I think that ought to be doable.
You mentioned the state exchanges, the ones that we forewent here in Maine.
Yeah.
I know that some Democrats, particularly in Maine, are blaming some of the problems of the federal website on overload. There's too many people going to the federal website, and that if you had the state-based exchange, it perhaps would have gone more smoothly. Do you believe that? Or?
Well, they knew, the feds knew, 6 months ago, a year ago, how many states they were going to have to handle. 36. There are 14 state exchanges, 36 states. And they should have anticipated that. I mean, I don't think that's much of an excuse. I think, as history has now shown, the state exchanges work better. It's nothing but an online marketplace. I mean, we're talking about exchanges. It's nothing but a place that you can go and say, okay, here are my insurance options. Here's my situation with my income and my family, and I choose the option, and here's what the premium's going to be. I mean, that's, again, it's like shopping at LL Bean online, or, here's the color park I want. It's somewhat more complicated, but the technology is there. The state exchanges have worked better, probably because they've had less traffic. Looking at history, a program of this size and scale is always going to have some problems getting started. I went back and looked at when Medicare started in 1965. Apparently it was a disaster. People weren't signing up. They had to send people around door to door to help elderly people sign up for Medicare. Everybody said, oh, this is terrible. Were the doctors going to participate and all that? And of course now Medicare is part of the landscape and everybody loves it. So there are going to be startup problems in any case like this. But I'm pretty unsympathetic with these technological problems because they're so. It's not a question of confusing regulations or anything. It's just a question of having the code right.
During the House Energy and Commerce Committee hearings today with some of the contractors that were charged with or paid to build this federal website, it was revealed by one of the contractors, I believe it was CGI, that they basically had 2 weeks of beta testing for this site. They would have preferred months more beta testing, and that wasn't allowed to happen apparently by the Obama administration. Do you think I mean, why do you think that they pushed so forward with the deadline?
I don't know, because, I mean, the deadline, everybody's known the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
The deadline was October 1st, 2013, and that was the deadline months and I think even years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm not going to excuse the administration or the contractors. I mean, I don't know any of the details. All I know is it didn't work,
Mm-hmm.
and it should.
Back in Maine, some state officials, there was a hearing on Monday or a briefing on the exchanges and how they're working here. Again, Maine is relying on the federal exchange, so
Right.
we don't really know. But there was some frustration expressed by at least several state Democrats, state lawmakers, about how the federal government is not revealing how many people are actually signing up, and that means in Maine and elsewhere. Do you feel like the Obama administration should be more forthcoming about releasing that sign-up data?
And I think, on the other hand, I'd be very surprised if there were many sign-ups in Maine because it's so difficult. Mm-hmm. I mean, I tried, couldn't penetrate it. The fact that there would be a low number of sign-ups at this point doesn't surprise me in the least, because you know, there's this almost impenetrable wall. And my understanding is that some of the state websites, and I can't remember, I think Kentucky is one, and several others, have been easy to use, clean, and they're having a lot of signups in the thousands. People aren't used to going online and buying health insurance. I mean, this is a brand new deal. People go online and buy shirts maybe, or shoes, or you know, a baseball bat. But to go online and buy health insurance and have to weigh all those options, that's a fairly complicated decision. I think it's going to take time for people to get used to it. But the idea, to me, it's a conservative idea. People say, sign up for Obamacare. There's no such thing as Obamacare. If you get through to the main exchange, you find Anthem Blue Cross and the new nonprofit that's based in Lewiston, and probably next year there'll be 2 or 3 more, but they're all private insurance companies. And that's who you're signing up for. Through this mechanism of the online marketplace that allows you to compare policies, compare prices, deductibles, premiums, and all that. And you know, I think it's going to work out. It's already benefiting people in Maine. Thousands of people have been able to keep their kids on their policies until they're 26, which they couldn't before. People are going to be able to get insurance with pre-existing conditions that they couldn't before. Elderly people are already getting breaks on their drug prices, which they didn't get before. So there are positive aspects of it. But right now, you know, we got to make the damn website work.
Do you think that, getting back to the Obama administration's reluctance to release some of this sign-up data, do you think they're doing that because they're concerned about the appearance of low sign-ups?
I don't know, probably. I would guess they probably are. But you know, as I say, I don't know how people can say, well, nobody's signing up if you can't sign up, which is essentially the situation. And I think it's going to take time. I don't think it's going to happen really quickly. Again, remember, as I said, it took time for people to sign up for Medicare. And this is a major new way of getting health insurance. So, but the idea of having choices between private companies that are competing, that are online, that you can compare the rates and costs, I think ultimately is going to be very beneficial to consumers. That's to me, I'm a free market guy, and I want a marketplace, and that's what this is. And I think it's going to help. I think it ultimately will help consumers. It'll help consumers with rates, but it's going to take time for people to get used to it. And you know, the first step is to get through the door. And so far, it's like everybody, let's go to the mall, and you get there and all the doors are locked. You know, you say, well, sales are low at the mall. Well, okay, the doors are locked. We get those doors unlocked, I think we're going to see people are going to say, hey, this is an opportunity for me to get insurance at competitive rates that I didn't have before.
Very good. Senator King, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Pleasure.